All right, I am starting recording now. Why don't we go ahead and go around and introduce yourselves and kind of what you guys do and everything, and then we'll kind of talk about what the show is going to be about and everything. So, Emil, why don't you go ahead and start?
My name's Emil Laksa, and I am an actor, filmmaker, musician, and a little bit more than that, but we can get into that some other time.
And Philip, if you want to go ahead next, man.
All right, man. My name is Phil Couture. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director. I do a lot of live theater as well, and also instruct in the summers for a film course. So.
Awesome. And I'm Nick Messersmith. I started off, went to film school for directing, but I ended up getting into stunts and fight choreography and acting, and still do some writing and some directing and stuff, but not much. But that's kind of where we're at right now. This is a show hopefully for not just Asian Americans, for everybody, but hopefully it gives Asian Americans either in the entertainment industry and anything like that, a little more representation, someone that looks like them, someone they can relate to. And that's kind of what our goal is. And hopefully through this medium, we can bring in more guests and more people to introduce everyone to, and just share our thoughts about what we've experienced and different things like that. That's kind of what the show and the platform is going to be about. If you guys have anything you guys want to add, please feel free, and then we can kind of just go from there. If you, either Emil or Phil, if either one of you guys want to take it and just kind of maybe talk a little bit about maybe a project or projects that you guys are doing or anything you're working on very quickly that people can look you guys up and kind of get to know you, any websites or social media or anything you want, and we can always post those too and everything else for everyone. If you guys want to start, whoever wants to go can go first.
I guess I can go first. One thing that I'm pretty big sorry, all my stuff is screwing up here. But I do a lot of stuff with Urban Exposure Film Program. That's the film program I'm the instructor for.
Oh, hey, I saw ads for that.
Yeah. So we're located in Davenport. So that's one that everyone should definitely look up. It's a free course. It's for young adults, students, stuff like that. So it's a great way to learn how to make an entire film from beginning to end. We write, we shoot, we edit entirely student-made films. So they get to start from the whole process at the very beginning and work their way all the way through it totally free. So it's a great way for them to start getting a start in the whole medium. I've also just recently started my own production company. It's called Rec Pictures. Thus far, it got slowed down with the whole COVID stuff as far as applying for paperwork and stuff like that. So we hadn't quite filed everything yet, and then everything just kind of went on hold. So I'm just kind of sitting, holding on the paperwork until we can start meeting again. From there, we've already got a couple of films in the works. We got a short film that we're hoping to shoot here. We were hoping to be almost wrapping shooting right now, but haven't even started now. It's called Yellow for Home, so that'll be an interesting one. And I've got numerous scripts and editing projects in the work, and then I do a lot of stuff with my work just in general. So
awesome. Okay, I guess I'll go next. I worked really closely with my friends in 122 Studios. We all released Wildcard right before everything started getting closed up in Iowa. It was a little short neo-noir film. I run my own production company, Color Me and Media. We just released my friend's band's music video. We ended up with 10,000 views in 8 days. I ran ad targeting and everything for that. As far as release and rollout, that ended up getting me some new PR clients. I have some more exciting stuff with that planned. And as far as acting, I'm attached to this indie feature film called Angels in the Snow, the musical. Don't know how much more I can really say about that, but that's going to be filming soon with precautions taken, of course, with everything going on. And then shortly after that, I'm part of the primary cast in this 80s inspired slasher film by City and Productions called Scream of the Crop. I'm really excited about that one. We just had a read last night, and the cast is fantastic. They had close to 40 auditions, and I'm really lucky and happy to be included in that production. So yeah.
Awesome, man. That sounds good, guys. Do you guys have anything, for me, I guess I can go next. the 2019 was kind of a busy year. I did, I think, 6 films. I think first one I did was called was Brothers. It's about kind of motorcycle racing and the corruption that happens there.
Aaron Mandy.
Yeah, yep. And then I did it was kind of a different thing. I played a bodyguard named TJ, everything. And then right after that, I did Miles, which is the Spider-Man fan film directed by Terrell Christie, who is an amazing director, and the special effects of that film are going to be awesome. It was kind of one of the more special effects intensive films that I've done in a while. I also did a film. We got a small budget. We got about $20K to do a Superman fan film called Mortal Menace. It was actually one of the guys, when they were writing Man of Steel with Henry Cavill, there was one of the writers wrote the screenplay. It was initially turned down. So he kept the script for it and turned it into a fan film. He's from overseas, and so he was kind of reaching out one day. I posted something, and he was like, "Hey, do you make kind of action films?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he was like, "Would you be interested in doing Superman?" For me, growing up, Superman was never one of my favorite superheroes, I guess, just because I think he was indestructible. I mean, it's a cool character, but it's like, and there's nothing you really have to worry about. Superman's always going to win because, he was indestructible. But as I read about him and I started looking at it, I said, you know what? Here's a guy who comes from another planet, but he wants to fit in. I think it was in Kill Bill where he kind of talked about it, but Clark Kent was that was the costume. Superman wasn't the costume, wasn't the superhero, because that's what he was born in. That's who he is Superman, is Kal-El. But Clark Kent, that's the disguise. And I kind of started thinking a little bit about me growing up and saying, you know what, that's kind of how Asian Americans, kind of how I felt, kind of being, especially being adopted too, because I looked one way, but I grew up another way, and I think Asian Americans in general, I think, feel that too, whether you're first gen or second gen born. I think you kind of have this pressure of learning the culture and having your parents kind of say like, oh, but then also growing up in rural Iowa, especially, you're kind of like, oh, okay, this, I need to kind of assimilate and all that stuff. So I did that film. I directed it, also played a character in it as well. And then I had also done a couple of other short films. One called, I did a feature film called Level Up, which is actually probably one of the bigger projects I worked on. It was pretty much all stuntmen that did that. It's actually out right now. You can watch it. It's an amazing film. It was a lot of fun that I did. And then I also worked on Alice with Emil, who actually we had no scenes, but he's in it. So we worked on that together. And a couple of other things. So that's kind of what I did over the year, this year, and then out in LA doing a couple of other things and everything like that. So I do a lot of traveling for it. I like to try to stay in Iowa as much as I can, but Alice was one of those ones that Michael Huntington called me up and said, hey, would you want to be in this? And it was one of those things I said, I haven't done a smaller independent film in a long time, and I think it would be a lot of fun. When you do a lot of big sets, it loses that kind of, it's fun, but I don't know, there's that independent feeling is always a good feeling when you're on set. So that's kind of something I worked on and different things like that. So hopefully Superman will be done soon. We're editing it right now. An amazing cast and crew and everything. My goal when I hired crew was to try to get as many minorities and women as possible. That was my biggest goal. I'm going to be directing a film called Flex coming up here very soon. Flex is a kind of a female empowerment action film. It's about this girl named Flex who is kind of an assassin at the end of her kind of wanting to retire but doesn't know, and then her father dies and she kind of slips into depression and decides to get out of the life, and she moves to a police housing colony, and that's kind of where the film starts. But she gets a letter from her father. Now her father's been dead for a while, but she gets this letter in the mail from her father, and she thinks it's very odd, and so she opens it up and reads it, and essentially he lays out and saying, if you're getting this letter from me, I was assassinated and killed, and it kind of explains to her what's going on, and then these mysterious assassins show up at her house and try to kill her and different things, and so she decides, I'm gonna cut the head off the snake and go find them and get a vengeance. So that's kind of a film we're working on. I'll be directing that. But the whole goal for that is to hire as many Asian Americans on crew as I can, women on crew as I can, but not just Asian Americans, but anyone of color, anything like that. So hopefully when that comes out, we can put out a call and hopefully we'll get some people of color to work on crew and everything. But that's enough for me. You know, hosting this show and you guys hosting this show, one of the things I've always wanted to do is to give people that look like us, people that look like me or look like you guys, a voice and you know, like someone they could relate to. Like I've always said, growing up, there weren't many people on TV or film that I could relate to. Someone I looked at and said, oh, I look like him, or I can relate to him. It was always the 6'2", 212 pound, blonde hair, blue eyed, white guy on TV. And I'd always have to be like, I guess I can find myself in him and him as a main character, and, you know, something maybe, you know, oh, you know, his mom grew up like my mom. Like that would be the only the relationship I'd have with that character. So it's getting better, but hopefully, you know, we can give that to more people. So.
I mean, growing up, it's this, you know, catch-22 of like, all right, you can choose to lean into those preconceptions of what you're supposed to be, or you can, you know, live the way you grow up. It's the synthesis of those two cultures, and then people are like, oh, you know, you're a Twinkie, like you're just white on the inside, and you're like, all right, I can't win, man. Like, what do you want me to do? Like.
Yeah, I guess a question for you guys, that just something to kind of that we could do to kind of talk about would be, what about and do you guys have an Asian actor or actress that maybe you guys follow, or you know, that you like their work or anything like that?
Honestly, for me, I don't really follow much of anybody. Oddly enough, as a filmmaker, you'd think I would, but I don't. I just kind of, that looks good, or I'm interested in that, and always trying to do my own thing kind of thing. So
hold on, I had a list. I did some prep work. Oh, that is my alarm to wake up. So for context, I guess it'd been 36 hours ago? No, 48, whatever. At the start of Friday, I did a 24-hour write, record, and release a song session. So my entire sleep schedule is all gone. I have no sense of time with it right now. It might take me a bit. But anyway, my list of actors. We've kind of touched upon like a lack of representation for all of us growing up, right?
Right.
And that's not in like, oh, they're not there. Like, I mean, there's definitely actors shown, but it was more in like, you know, Asian exploitation films, or I mean, Mickey Rooney and that mess. Yeah. You know, you cast actors to play these almost sideshow portrayals of any kind of Asian culture. You lump it all together. You know, it doesn't matter if it's Eastern Asian, like Japanese, Chinese, Korean, like to people that grew up in that area with all that saturation of stereotypes. I mean, a lot of people that have, you know, anti-Asian opinions, they don't care. They just see, that dude probably eats bats, like,
right.
So in like, I'd say the last 15-20 years, I've tried to pay more attention to actors and actresses that are starting to book, you know, those more than a side character roles that end up in even leading roles. Jacob Batalon, he's Filipino. He's Ned in Spider-Man. You know, he plays, it's a side character, but he plays a very, very major side character. It's Peter's best friend. You know, Dave Bautista, he's a fourth Filipino. Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, he's getting some like one-off action roles, sure, but that's a major blockbuster. And I'm sure we can get into this later, but you know, there's this line of Asian actors and actresses that can be white passing, that kind of get a privilege card as far as like, okay, you know, maybe they're just generically exotic. An actor that I personally follow a lot is Darren Criss. He I want to say he's fourth. What's my note say? His mother is from Cebu. He's either a half or a fourth Filipino. He's very big as far as like Broadway goes. If viewers need context, he first gained fame as part of Star Kid, the theater group that did a very Potter musical, and then that ended up bringing him to Glee. But yeah, there's definitely actors and actresses that I think are, you know, raising the profile of Asians in at least Western entertainment. Manny Jacinto, he's Canadian, so I mean it kind of doesn't count, but he's Filipino. He's in The Good Place. He plays kind of a dumber character, but he's got like leading man looks. You know, it helps take away that stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I like Chloe Bennett a lot now that you mention it. Like, wasn't thinking about it. She's the lead on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fun fact: she used to be a pop star in China. Was it right?
Yep.
Yeah.
For me, I think you know, one thing for me, it was Ki-Hong Lee was one that was one of the first ones, kind of in Maze Runner, playing Minho in Maze Runner. It was kind of, I thought originally when he started talking, I was so happy that he didn't have like broken English or an accent or anything like that. That was a good one. Also too, kind of going off Filipino, but Dante Basco, who played Rufio in Hook. And you know, he was in, what was he in? He was in was it Bacon the Funk or whatever it was, the one where he was switched at birth and ended up growing up in the hood. I forgot what the name of the film was, but he ends up getting switched at birth, and so he grows up in a black home and grows up in an African American home and learns that culture. So it's this kind of really funny existential. And then like the black kid that got switched with him grew up in like this Asian kind of Filipino home. So it's kind of a very fun. I have to look up the film and talk about it, but it was one that Dante Basco did a lot. He was one.
I know he's younger on this, but I just know him
as Rufio.
No, Prince Zuko.
That shows my age, I guess. I remember him as Rufio. So, but no, that was one. Ki-Hong Lee was one. You know, also for me, Fresh Off the Boat was another show. I was happy that they weren't like, that they were super Asian American and not like Fob, you know, like Fresh Off the Boat. Like I said, you know, I was so happy that they didn't have the accents and all that kind of stuff.
I would actually like to talk about that show at some point. I love it.
That's a great one. I also like Master of None. Did you guys see that one?
Yes.
I haven't.
Kim's Convenience is another one that is pretty good.
Yep, that's a good one.
But yeah, you know, for me, I'm glad that there's a step. We're making steps in the right direction, and we're doing better at it. You know, like I said, it's baby steps. We can't expect it to change overnight, but hopefully over the next few years, we won't see Asians speaking with broken accents and broken English and accents. We'll see them as we see ourselves and who we are. It's just as people that live here without accents, you know? So.
Well, honestly, I wouldn't necessarily not want to see them. And here's my argument. I know it sounds kind of weird, but there's always this misconception that if people are speaking in broken accents, that they're less intelligent. But really, like for most people, that they're learning their second, third language. You know.
Yes.
So I wouldn't say necessarily get rid of that imagery, because I mean, for a lot of people our parents' age, that's still their reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think the ultimate goal of representation is you want to give people little snippets of their own reality in whatever platform you're looking for. So instead of like looking for the complete elimination of that, more nuanced takes of it, right? You go to a flashback of, you know, a kid my age growing up, and then you highlight the struggle that their parents had to go through when they first moved into the neighborhood. Just more, you know what I'm saying? Sorry.
Sure. No, I agree, because the farewell with Aquafina, that kind of hits on that really good, and everything, and I guess when I talk about that, I guess I want to say, you know, if you have those characters, I think having them,
they're fleshed out.
As a parent, I think, you know, being and having a character that's first generation born in America, I think that's fine having the accent with your parents. The one thing I always hate is
the
that
negative portrayal.
Yes, when you see they're the Chinese delivery driver, or you know that, or they're the comic relief, that stoner that's getting high, you know, or there's, I mean, and I know it is part of Asian culture, but they're an Ivy League grad that went to Harvard or Princeton or Yale and got, you know, a degree in business or math or something like that. You know, I mean, I know that is kind of the culture, but still, it'd be nice to show a dude that makes, you know, 30. Yeah, exactly. You know, and more that you know, because showing the struggles, I think that's the best way to tell the stories and get it out there. People should know. But I always hate, you know, I always have that discussion when someone asks me. They always ask me like, "Where are you from?" And I always say, "Oh, I'm from Iowa." Or I'm from, you know, Iowa City.
That's the worst question. Where are you really from?
Yeah, the follow-up question is, no, where are you really from? Like, I can't be from Iowa City. Like, why can I not be from Iowa City? If you asked a white person, said, where are you from? And they said Iowa City, the conversation's over right there. Like, oh, cool, you know? But if you ask me, where am I from? And I say Iowa City, why is there a follow-up of where are you really from? And then when I say, no, I'm really from there. And then they say, well, where are your parents from? And it's like, well, okay, for me, it's worse because I was adopted, so I have white parents. So it's like, I say, oh, my father's from St. Louis and my mother, you know, grew up in like the Tumwa area. And they go, oh, well, where are the grandparents from? Where are your grandparents? Like, you know, I understand what they're saying. Like, I understand what they're asking, but it's that like subtle racism, I feel, because it's like, why can't I
look like I belong?
Exactly. You know, so, and it's like, if they want to know my ethnicity, that's just the thing, you know, I have no problem. Just ask it, say, hey, you know, what is your ethnicity? And I'll be like, I'm Korean, dude, you know, but they always say, where are you from? And then that's always I'm just waiting for that follow up of like, no, where are you really from? And it's like, no, I mean, I'm from Iowa City, so why can't I be from there, you know? So.
No.
And I think
every day, man.
Right. And I think that does come from like, I guess it just comes from a lack of exposure to why that's bad. You know, I think
especially here, in the Midwest, like it's just bad here.
It's awful because you have to point it out. It's like, hey, this is, you know, why I'm uncomfortable with that, and trying to explain what a microaggression is, right? Trying to explain what that is to people that aren't nearly sympathetic to you is the worst time, because then they're like, oh, you know, you're just so sensitive. I'm like, my man.
Yeah,
I could not give any care less as to whether you think I'm sensitive or not. But man, if I have to deal with this every day for the rest of my life, I will stab it.
Yeah, for sure. So we have 5 minutes left. So I just want to give you guys a chance for anything closing that you want to say, or just, you know, say what you're talking about or anything like that before we go. And then, you know, next show, hopefully my plan is to have a special guest with us in the next show, whether, you know, be a female or a male or anyone that Asian American that works in the entertainment industry. So let's start with Emil, and then we'll go to Phil or whatever, if you guys have anything you want to say before we end.
Well, something I'd like to touch upon in future episodes, how identity is born for Asian Americans, how our media interacts with that, you know, how our entertainment, all the things that we consume. Because, I mean, for all of us, for Asian males, you know, growing up, you have Asian male stereotypes that are hard to combat, especially in the Midwest. For me personally, I'm Filipino, so there's always the question of like, well, you're not really Asian, and you know, that's an entirely different question of like whether we can self-identify as Pacific Islanders or Asians, or whether other people have the right to do that. That's stuff that I'd like to bring up at some point.
Sure.
Phil?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff to touch on. I mean, like I said, portrayal in film. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see us talk a lot more about, hey, this movie's coming out where we have a lead and it's not another martial arts film. Don't get me wrong, love martial arts films. They were my favorite growing up, still are. I don't know if that's because I love martial arts or if it's because that was the only films I was exposed to that had Asian actors in it that weren't portrayed as villains.
Yeah,
it could have been either or. It was totally subconscious if it was, just because like Nick, I was adopted. I have white parents, so like my entire life, the only culture I had around me was white culture. Like I said, just love martial arts films. Bruce Lee was a hero of mine, stuff like that. So always loved him. But like I said, there just aren't a whole lot out there where they're not a martial arts star. Like, I mean, I love Jackie Chan and all kinds of stuff like that, but it's one of those things that we just don't see anything where there's a lead actor that doesn't know martial arts. And I feel like there's a lot of great actors out there that don't know martial arts that could do a lot of great things. So hopefully looking forward to seeing more and more films where we can actually talk about, hey, you know, this is somebody that's doing something that's not another action film. So stuff like, I know we talked about it in some of our meetings beforehand, movies like, what was the one with John Cho just recently? Searching, yeah. I mean, stuff like that. It's great to see stuff where you have somebody that's just doing stuff. I want to start talking about like directors and cinematographers and stuff like that. I'd love to start seeing more of that just in general, like film, live theater, anything at all where we can just see more exposure.
For sure. You know, and like I said, you know, guys, happy to have met you guys. I'm glad that you know, when I went to film school and a few years ago, I remember graduating in 2008 and there were like no Asians in film school with me at Iowa, you know, at least none that I knew. And I was always like, oh, exactly. And it was always like, you know, oh, I'm going to be this lonely person. But over time, I'm glad to see more. And, you know, hopefully that will transcend. And like I said, we can meet more people in the Midwest and kind of just, and not just for Midwesterners, but open it up to anybody and anyone, and just kind of hopefully people will understand the story and the struggle and everything, and just kind of open up the eyes, but also give Asian Americans a voice and stuff like that. We have stories that need to be told, that should be told, and hopefully we can help facilitate that. So,
you know, I've got some great stories about college and film school. Oh man. Some of them are pretty bad and pretty hilarious at the same time. So
awesome, guys.
Sometime I'll tell you guys about those too.
For sure.
Fear.